always put the door chain on my door whenever my girlfriend leaves the apartment. I think probably unconsciously, you know?
Right.
As a sign that, like, I want out of the relationship, you know, and I'm preventing her from getting back in.
You always change the locks when she goes away for vacation.
Yeah, I subconsciously change the locks on my door. I find myself calling locksmiths in a fugue state, not remembering having done it.
Subconsciously texting, I want to break up.
Subconsciously putting all her belongings on the curb.
Subconsciously making a pros and cons list of staying in the relationship or seeing other people.
This is 30-Minute Worlds, and this is going to be a bit of a doozy of an episode because it is, of course, our season 3 finale. And it's been a great season. We've been very appreciative of all the worlds, almost all the worlds, that we've gotten to build.
It's also our biggest season, I think, compared to 2, because 1 was only like 10 episodes.
Season 2 I felt like was huge, but I can't back that up.
I think 3 has had more, but anyway, it was a lot of good worlds.
We're old hands at this point. The first season was like there was only really 1 or 2 good episodes.
Not
and then
true.
The second season there was maybe like I'd say there was like 8, and now we've got like a full bracket.
We got a full bracket of some pretty tight worlds. That's 16 worlds, not counting some of the fun worlds like, for example, 3-Minute Worlds Part 2, Squid Game 2, which was a departure from our normal formula. We managed to cut it down to about, 20 worlds? And then, no, we cut it to 21 worlds, and then we cut 5 of those and have a competitive bracket of 16.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I didn't feel good about including the Activision-sponsored episode, given all the current news.
Yeah, we do want to say some farewells to the worlds that didn't even make it into the bracket. Do we want to start listing those off here? If you're a big fan of, I'm going to say, our first one, At the Table of the Baron, where we had a magic table that influenced affairs in that city. We didn't really include it. I liked it personally. But we didn't think it would fare well in the bracket against some other picks. Do you guys want to talk a little bit about that world before we send it on its way, never to mention it again?
I feel like it's just like a Guillermo del Toro movie that he made after a serious illness. So like, he's not really like all there, but he's going through the motions.
It was a return to form. That's unexpectedly harsh for you. Damn.
I don't think it was that bad. To me though, it was basically just like a side quest in like a gothic horror campaign.
That's
is
very
what it felt like.
Yeah.
It had a character, and we focused on a lot of characters. And you know, if you do want to use that episode in your gothic horror campaign,
know that you do it without our consent. Because It's not the best of the best.
Yes.
Yeah, I guess that one was a bit off model because it was sort of just like fleshing out a little part of a campaign setting, a little quest.
Yeah. I mean, it felt more like an adventure path than anything else. Like, or like a, but I don't know, wasn't very encompassing.
The next world on our list that we cut was Ironclad. Chessman, do you want to describe, this world was your baby?
This world was your fault.
Was I even there?
Oh, you were the lore lad on Ironclad.
Yeah.
You were the man at the helm of the ship.
I barely remember this one at all.
This is the one with the robots who are controlled by insects, who inhabit an archipelagic world full of lizard people, and who rove around in steamboats with paddle wheels, committing piracy.
I have to say, this is, I don't remember this at all.
On the tail, it sounds kind of cool.
Like, maybe as a sort of, I think maybe this was like when we were getting into like Malifaux a little bit, or it's like trying to do, we were going to do a Through the Breach campaign, or a Through the Breach one shot, which Through the Breach is the, like TTRPG version of Malifaux, and it didn't happen. So instead, I made an equally impossible to parse setting involving lizard people.
Yeah, well, that was Daniel's fault. I feel
The
like this
lizard
one
people
was
are
just
always
sort
Dan's
of
fault. That's
So
just
we
like
never
go-to.
we never had anything cohesive with this one. It just never really developed
Yeah,
into
and there
anything.
were technical difficulties on the episode too. Like we cut it halfway through. God.
yeah, just a Mad Libs world. Didn't turn out.
The next one that is up for our cut and that will unfortunately not make it into the bracket was the World Painter's Paradise, where we had World Building Magazine's current editor-in-chief, Adam Bassett, on. It was a 5-man. It was about using paint to ascribe different like magical qualities to things. And it was kind of a like...
Yeah,
It's kind of like Splatoon esque almost, but with magic.
Color magic is just like, I don't know. It's hard to not fall into like really tropey stuff with color magic. Thanks to our
It'd be a great, if you had the space to explore it, it'd be a good system for like I don't know, like a fighting anime or like a fantasy epic to explore like a system. But like we wouldn't do that.
Yeah, well, so I feel like if that were a component of a world, it could have been fine and good and nice. It's just I feel like that episode didn't find the world and just...
We went too deep into the magic, which was kind of a mistake of it, I think. And it was also, because of that, kind of a ponderous episode, kind of long. If memory serves, it was like 50 minutes long, pretty much. Due to being a 5-man too, I feel like in the 5-man eps, sometimes it's hard for each person to get what they want out of the world because there's less availability to talk.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So that was Color's World. What's the next one?
Yeah.
Okay, next one. Afterlife 2. Activision's Blizzard's Afterlife 2.
yeah, the episode that's guaranteed to inspire existential dread in 1 out of 3 listeners.
Yes. This is a Dan veto on this one. I liked this world. I thought it was very funny.
No, here's the thing. Fun fact. After the conversations that happened about this world, I thought I was cool. I thought I was fine. And then I went to sleep and I had one of the first like true moments of gripping existential dread. And I've been having them every once in a while for the next few weeks. So, I mean, it's a very effective world that we made.
Oh, good. We made a cursed world.
Yeah. we do make a lot of those.
I think this one was impacted too much also by like the metaverse announcement that kind of happened around that time. And it's kind of, I guess, derivative of that in a way. And it's funny. You know what? I still like it. I don't think it's derivative. I think it's a cool idea. It's very Philip K. Dick that you could live in a video game essentially or a construction of you after you die. But I knew it wouldn't get far in the bracket because Daniel and Chessman would stifle the innovation that this world presented, unfortunately.
Did not love it.
Okay, well, listen. It was a Walter setting.
I don't like talking about it, and I don't like thinking about it.
Okay, next one. Just one more, right?
Yes, the final episode we cut and that will regrettably not make it into this bracket was CNBC Presents Glaive Watch, where one swing from a magical glaive could destroy the world, and it had been destroyed like 12 times, I think.
Yeah. I mean, very powerful glaives. Almost too powerful,
Absurd
one might say.
Glaives, you know?
Yeah.
I think part of the struggle with this one is that, like, we never really... there was discussion about, like, does it just destroy a certain part of the world? Like, can it just reform certain terrain? Is it always a planet-ending apocalypse? Like, of the ones we cut, I don't hate this one, but I think that the scale of it...
The concept that we found, or I think that I pushed, I forget whether we had consensus on it, was that it was sort of like the desires and wishes of the wielder were sort of refracted in reality shattering after he swings it. And I still like that concept. I don't think there's much more to it than that concept, but it was a cool concept.
I think I pitched the concept, I think that it would destroy the world. And then we kind of compromised and said that what did we say? That it insmoothed the world, like it smoothed it out, the insmoothening.
Yeah.
Well, I think one of the words was like smooth or scraper or something.
That's always how
My
that
word. Pretty sure it was my
Maybe
word.
we just haggled too much over the meaning of it. Maybe the band was just too discordant.
we did.
We got into some good
Session.
stuff toward the end where we were describing like the different societies But I think there's other like post-apocalyptic worlds we've done that are like far crazier and far better. One of which will be featured on this bracket. Rest assured. So
I'll go right into it.
Yep, and we will also be releasing this bracket in accompaniment with the episode, so you guys can see what the original pairings were and how it kind of shook out. We'll post that on Twitter and on our Facebook page.
And don't worry, we didn't like put out anything to like figure out who, like, we didn't put out like a poll or anything, but there is not so many, like, we know what everybody thought the best episodes were, because there's like people actually said,
told us. Yeah. Which is really great to have listeners that care a lot about which worlds get a revisit. That's really nice. Our first matchup is a pairing of two worlds here. We have Swords of the Father and we have Pawn Stars. And I don't know if I said this at the beginning of the episode, but if you're a new listener, don't start with this episode. It's incredibly self-referential. Go listen to any other episode and just find one you like and have fun. Because we're going to kill some worlds off here. Swords of the Father versus Pawn Stars. One world's got to live.
Pawn Stars was bank, recycle, and stars, which probably one of the most liberal or like direct applications of prompt words to a setting that we've done.
Right.
Given that it is about like a fucking repo company that rents and then steals stars from people.
And then Swords of the Father had no prompts. It was a 2-man episode.
Yep, me and you.
Swords from another planet that arrived on a human world that fed on blood, and they were machines that had intelligence, and they controlled the evolution of humanity to be incredibly violent. And they could like control their hosts physically by overpowering them mentally. All right. What are we thinking on this one, gents?
Well, I like Pawn Stars. I think we maybe got as much out of that concept as we kind of can. It does feel a little one note to me. But I don't know. I like Swords of the Father. Like on the re-listen, I feel like there's fun things we could do, like with what that setting looks like.
We always shortchange 2-man episodes too, but I do think Swords of the Father is a stronger episode of the two, and it's a stronger world. It's more interesting to me, at least.
Yeah, and I like to give unique points. That's just what attracts me in worlds. And Pawn Stars was like good. I think it's a solid app. I'm not going to slack the app, but I don't think it gets that many unique points. So we did have like some fun riffs about what happens with the stars, but we already like played in that playground.
Yeah, we typically fuck around a lot with the stars, actually, as you'll see with other worlds in the bracket that we have. I think that's 3 in favor of Swords over Pawn Stars, unless, Chessman, you have a really compelling element.
No, I mean, I love the idea of these, like, it's just very evocative to me that these generational swords. I also just like the original concept more. I thought it was of Pawn Stars more than the swords, but like, you know, like people are always we're always we can always have more sun. We have too many sun.
Yeah, there's
episodes.
We do have a lot of sun
Really?
episodes. Yeah.
Okay.
That's what I'm getting at.
So it's
We have too
looking
many
like
sun episodes.
Swords of the Father has advanced out of the gate here, beating Pawn Stars. Next pairing here, we've got Chasing the Eschaton versus Doom Runner. Doom Runner being the second episode of the season.
This is an interesting matchup, considering they're both about the end of things.
Yeah, they are.
In very different ways, too. So the Eschaton, the prompts were ear, yawn, and owl, which, man.
I don't know how we built that out of that. That was one of the greatest leaps of all time. I do think it was pretty good, like the episode was.
Especially because
ear?
Ear, yeah. Like, because it started with, like, animal mutation was, like, the first thing that began that.
Right.
Doom Runner was a tie, runner, and dissolve, which is another bonkers.
And I remember this because this was my episode. This was the episode where I was like, you know what? let's try doing an episode where we don't have any characters or something like that.
Was Doom Runner
For-
that one?
Yeah, Doom Runner was the one about there's an entity that runs through the dooms. Like he runs through it runs through all of the apocalypses that ever happened.
Yeah.
Categorizing them or observing them, but not
It was
really
very
changing
bizarre.
them.
No,
And
I
of
love,
course it has a soft spot.
I find the
and then-
concept really evocative with Doom Runner. And I actually just have this like image in my mind of this figure, sort of seraph, angelic. They're like having collected all these little items from these various ends of times, like little worlds orbiting him. And
I'm gonna argue in favor of chasing the Eschaton here.
For the listener, let's just say Chasing the Eschaton is basically about a world that is in the process of being ruined by wizards that are stealing power from the apocalypse that ends the world.
In the future, yeah.
Yeah, at the end of time, basically. And I feel like that description sells it a little bit short because we talked about a lot of really cool stuff that happened in that episode at the end.
This is a 5-star episode. This has, first of all, Dr. Wizard, if you'll remember, a central driving character. It has concepts such as hard light, magitech, and air that's vindictive and wants to kill you for breathing it. It has a lot of interesting philosophical questions about, like, I don't know, like bringing, like, the road to hell being paved with good intentions. Like, maybe if we can siphon all this power off the apocalypse, we could stop it. Oh, wait, we're actually fucking up the world even more. But now the grid is so dependent on this Eschaton energy that society's collapsing pretty much entirely.
Right.
right, and we had a good rebel faction with the animal mutations.
We had, they were kind of, and they weren't inherently righteous as a faction either, because they also were weaponizing Eschaton energy to their own advantage, was the other thing, to mutate people into like bestial forms.
They created like a communal society based on improving their adaptations to basically remain independent of these wizards that were at war.
It's way cooler than, because Doom Runner for me, right? Doom Runner was not about the actual setting that we made, because there was a setting in Doom Runner. Like, it wasn't, it was, that we followed, our focus was this entity that was traveling dooms, basically traveling like the ends of time of certain
Different
like
realities and
universes,
worlds,
I guess. Different, but there we did build one specific world there, and the thing is, I'm not really that interested in that world anymore. Like, we built a Doom, right? But the idea that's interesting is the runner itself, which is not really something I feel like we need to explore at all, because it's like one of these meta worlds, right?
It could also exist in any world. It could exist in Chasing the Eschaton, frankly.
Yeah, well, I think I got excited by the idea of it, like all of our worlds, when they end, the Doom Runner goes through them.
I like that too.
Maybe at one
kind of
point we do an episode where we like take some worlds that we like and talk about how they end. And have the Doom Runner.
I think that'd be
fun.
cool.
Yeah. But that's not the bracket, I think. And if we're doing the bracket in episode quality, it's definitely Chasing the Eschaton.
Yeah.
I think so too.
Doom Runner is one of the most original episodes we've done. It's very cool, but I vote for Eschaton.
Yeah, me too.
All right, Eschaton will be matched up against Swords of the Father, and we'll come back to it. But going down to round out all these pairings, which we have a few left here.
Most of them.
Obscura versus Barren Lands.
Right.
Well, let's get a little recap.
What were the prompts here? That'll jog our memory.
Obscura, the prompts were bag, photograph, and smoke. And it was about a genius photographer or an inventor, I guess, that created a camera that you could use to travel into other worlds.
Right.
I love this one.
The concept was that there was like these realms that were filled with smoke.
Yeah, Il Fumo.
There were like passageways between the worlds, but that you could like turn the smoke physical by taking a picture of it. Right?
Yeah, it was when you took a picture of something, you made a gate into the smoke, and then you could theoretically emerge from within the smoke to another dimension. This one was really cool. We had a lot of cool concepts in it. Barren Lands was a 2-man with Chessman and Daniel, right?
Yes, it is. And it is about humanity that has... This one is on Earth, and it is about humanity has regressed itself to like the 1700s, basically, in terms of technology through an apocalypse. But the whole planet, at the same time as humanity is slowly crawling back from the apocalypse, is being observed by these aliens in orbit that are terraforming the planet to be perfect for them and hostile to us. And we sort of explored like what that looks like in terms of how hostile it is, and what the Baron, the titular Baron, leads like an alliance of humans in like on the Canada, America or USA border, that they use like hot air balloons basically to move around and scout things out. Which I did enjoy Barren Lands a lot. I had a lot of fun doing that one.
I like Barren Lands a lot, actually, and I would rate it. I would say, for me, of the two, I think Barren Lands is a better episode. I love Obscura. It was so fun to do. It was a very fun setting, but that's my take on it. I just love Barren Lands. I love the dirigibles. I love kind of like the concept that these aliens that we're fighting, we can't even really fight them because they're just terraforming our planet. It's almost like we're ants to them, you know? I love the hopelessness of it. Go on.
So Hyperborea, our Hyperborea episodes was very similar in theme, right?
Right.
About like aliens terraforming, like using world as their own playground.
Yeah, maybe that's why I like it, because that was one of our greatest episodes of all time.
Yeah.
Unjustly sacrificed before the golden calf of...
There's definitely thematic similarities. Hyperborea is like, it explicitly is like a test tube that the aliens have been like working with from the beginning, basically. And this was more like, I like the themes in this of man versus nature that is changing and becoming new. But it's also like, it's not like the aliens in this are just going to come down and wipe us out, because there really aren't very many of them. Like, it's just this like observation crew, basically.
And it's kind of this like, well, I guess it is a lot like Hyperborea, because the aliens are the subject of these myths and like fables, kind of, due to the like limited technological understanding of society.
But we also had talked about the aliens in this setting are infiltrating the like government of this Baron, like, and I think we had talked about how like they have infiltrated the royal family, like they're actively conspiring to weaken like this human government on the planet,
right?
Because they can't use direct force. I don't know. There are similarities. I think there are distinct differences as well, though.
Yeah, and I don't know, I think Obscura, in terms of like having more gas, is definitely there. I mean, I love the aesthetic. I like the sort of like Age of Adventures theme, colonialism theme, about like using this technology to break into other worlds. The implications of being able to like phase in and out is fun. Like the nature of the smoke, I feel like, is very evocative, but we didn't like dig into it in all the ways we could have yet.
Oh yeah,
exactly.
It was all like named after like Renaissance painting techniques. I remember was the terms we used for. I'm flipping my vote. I like Obscura. Belvin, you did get me just talking about Obscura a bit more. And I think what actually flipped me was you talking about how similar Barren Lands was to Hyperborea.
I was kind of hoping to save it for the second round, but like the biggest, most important thing about any of these worlds and like which one wins is the one that we think would be the most interesting to revisit, right? So like Obscura, I instantly can think of like all of the like fleshing out the enemy, which is still like there was like that shapeless, like the enemy that was in the shadows that we didn't really explore very much, and like
Il
different
figura
worlds.
del fiumo.
Yeah, like the factions, we'd already like starting to mess around some with factions, but there's so much more that could be there.
Factions, yo.
Yeah, it's there, but it's not fleshed out, which is perfect.
I mean, I also vote for Obscura. I like the Barren Lands, but it's not as good for a revisit as Obscura is.
Okay. Yep, I think it's a consensus. Obscura destroying Barren Lands in unarmed combat.
Destroyed.
Oh, next up, we have Forgotten Gods featuring the inimitable Junius P. Wright III versus The Salt Lines, which was our most recent episode, actually, that we just released. About a world that has all of these lenses in it through which light can pass, but nothing else can. And the galaxy discovering them being freaked out.
That's not the Junius one. The Junius one is Forgotten Gods.
Yeah, The Salt Lines is what I just described.
Okay.
Forgotten Gods is about gods eating each other to gain their own power.
Yeah.
Right.
And the words for that were Forgotten, Blasphemy, Wheel, and Salt, Lens, and Impact, respectively.
For
Okay.
the salt lines, yeah. The Forgotten Gods one, of course, I like it just on the factor of it basically being a metaphor for how like religions get like
Syncretism.
sort of eat each other.
Yeah.
Syncretism. Syncretism.
I'm going to be honest here, and I think we can all be honest. The Salt Lines is a better episode. Than Forgotten
it is a better episode.
It is a nicer. It would be. I think it's going to win this. I do like Forgotten Gods. Having Junius on was great.
Yeah.
He did have a lot of energy that we captured, but I think compared to the stuff we hit on in the Salt Lines, I don't know, Belvin. I feel like you carried a lot of the water for the Salt Lines. And it was kind of your setting as much as whoever the lad was on that one.
That was mine.
Well, what's funny is that I'm trying to remember everything that went on in the episode, and I'm having trouble.
It's our most recent one.
I know.
It's the one.
That's the one where there's like a planet that basically they use salt magic circle gates to look into other worlds, and they look back and turn to them.
Yeah. So there's this planet that this precursor race inhabited, and they made these gates around the salt rings of the planet. It has rings like Saturn does. And it's implied that like this precursor was like made of light or some kind of creature that could go through the gate. But they all left and never came back. And humanity evolved there, and they can't use the gates, but they can still see through them. And there's like invisible psychic creatures coming in through the gate to fuck up humanity.
Right.
There are alien species who are interested in the gates but can't go through them, but who want access to their power. And you have kind of a naive, magical police investigating shit.
Right, the lensmen or whatever, yeah.
Yeah, the Salters.
The Salters.
Right.
Salters.
And there's like maybe a few pieces of like the salt rings that come down to the planet and were good artifacts to use. I remember what I got energized about with this episode was the idea of these like higher spiritual beings and us like peering into it and maybe getting some interaction back. And, like each different ring being able to represent something else. And it just seemed pretty rich conceptually. It
reminds me a lot of what was that one we did with the moths?
Moth K Ultra?
Moth K Ultra. It reminds me a lot of that one, and I really like that world.
It doesn't remind me of that one at all, but I do really like
it. Does.
I
Moth
see
K
what
Ultra
it means.
No, it's a very transcendentalist episode. It's very much about humans encountering something they can't understand. It's very much an episode where kind of secret police are in play, societally.
Yeah. I mean, there's also like aerial moth combat, but aside from
that was it was ace combat with moths and meditation.
I mean, there could conceivably, if we took it further, there could conceivably be like space light ghost combat. I don't know.
I mean, there was the whole the secret police thing. I don't remember honestly talking about the Salters that much. Like, I remember that they were like, we said they were a thing, but I don't feel like we went into that much detail about them. But that would be a good thing to explore.
No, yeah, we didn't dig in deep. Just like they're inspectors who have some sort of bulwark against the spirits. Yeah.
Well, and because like there's people using like the salt that falls to Earth to do like bad shit, and they're like supposed to kind of keep on track of it. I mean, Salt Lines is a banger episode. I think it's gonna win here.
Yeah,
I'm voting for it.
Yeah, compared to Forgotten Gods. We're sorry, Junius. We've stabbed you in the back. We've betrayed our old mentor.
I also think it's a little tricky for guest episodes. It's a little tricky to do them again, especially when without the guest. Like maybe we get them back.
We would have to get the guest back. I think for that episode,
we would definitely be able to get Junius back.
Oh, you think he's busy at all?
Well, that's not fair.
What?
Yeah, I think all the guest episodes are up for grabs. No reason not to do a guest ep, but
yeah.
But also a lot of them there's adjustment and they end up being unique and good. I'm glad we do them, but I can see how it's hard for one to make it to the tippy tops because there's
Yeah. I will say they are all also longer and more complicated.
Right.
That can sometimes be good. That's not always bad. Sometimes we make good guest episodes. It happens.
We got
one we did with Vin.
We're going to go. We're good.
Oh, the tree one?
Oh,
with all the bugs? Yeah, that was a good episode.
That was a truly amazing episode.
All right, we got 4 more stages of this.
Next up.
Ghost Glass.
Ghost Glass versus Showbiz Kids.
So now we're in the second bracket. We're in the we're in the lower brackets, right?
Lower bracket.
This is the low seeds.
The low seeds of the tournament.
That were randomly seeded.
Yeah, they were.
Yeah, so Ghost Glass, the prompt words were prison, glass, and aspire, and Showbiz Kids were marriage, kabuki, and copy.
Kabuki.
Yeah. I wonder who picked kabuki.
What was Ghost Glass about again?
It was about the evil god Olog, who wasn't evil as much as
he's not the evil god. He's the afterlife god.
Yeah. He had all this money due to his societal role as the afterlife god. People would give him coins, and I remember he went down to Earth because he was miserable, and then he had a lot of money, and he paid for something, and someone's like, "Wow, that's a lot of money," and he's like, "It is," and then he just loves money.
No, he's just he's avarice in god form. Just
God who sucks.
Well, he's had a shitty job forever, and he's like, well, fuck, I have unlimited labor, and I can just become wealthy.
Yeah, using.
And I can bully the king of the gods.
Yeah, I remember it eventually got to the point where he did craft the afterlife into a hellish capitalistic prison just to keep making more money.
Yeah.
But until we got to that point, it's just a god who likes making money and having a nice house.
I think we talked about how the other gods were trying to figure out how to deal with him, and were kind of failing to organize together to do anything about him.
Yeah, the backlash one would have as a pantheon.
Yeah. Surprise, gang! Another capitalism bad episode.
Yeah, we're real original.
Yeah, we got themes,
and
all good writers.
Showbiz Kids was about how magical plays put on in front of a fairy audience have the potential to determine the events in your life.
Yeah, this is the one I fought for.
You fought pretty. This is literally your vanity project. You fought so hard for this one's inclusion into the bracket, and I allowed it knowing that it would lose.
I think this one's better than Ghost Glass. I think this one's more...
it's not.
Ghost Glass was a fun little romp, but it's not a rich concept necessarily. It's this greedy god in this not super defined world. Showbiz Kids is really evocative to me because it's it's a very Neil Gaiman-esque thing, which is again kind of my shit. But the idea that on this world where humans create works of fiction to sort of echo and mirror their futures in front of a fairy host, and we never fleshed out exactly all those fairy powers, all the interesting ways human society could mix with the fairies.
Right. There was, because they will, they do.
If I remember right, we focused on a single village, basically, that this was their tradition of how they sort of figured it out. So in that respect, I can see how we could evolve the concept. I also see how we could evolve Ghost Glass, because what that would basically be is setting up the conflict between the gods in a more dynamic way.
I think Ghost Glass is way easier to set up. Showbiz Kids is a very creative concept. It's a concept with a lot of thematic weight to it. but I do think that the like inherent concept of the setting would not change upon a revisit. It would remain the same.
Well,
and we
I
would
think
just
that-
be adding names to things, pretty much.
I don't know about that. I think, I mean, there's riffing on the concept of like creating your future through magic participation. Like it doesn't just have to be plays. We talked about this one village. There can be other ways in which you like create your future, in these like organized ritualistic ways. And to go negative against my opponent, I don't remember the Pantheon in Ghost Class being like really that distinctive. Like I think we gave him like a Slavic air.
No.
Our main guy, Oleg or whatever. But it's not like we like create this like sick pantheon that's going to be any different from any other.
No,
like,
but that would be
god myth
potential
XPs.
grounds for a revisit. We never really create a sick pantheon on day one of this shit. I can't think of an
there wasn't
episode
even-
really, apart from the pirate one, Sunlit Seas, that we did,
Yeah,
where the
that
pantheon
was
was
a good
really
one.
fleshed out, and that was a really strong point for it. I'll give you that. I don't know. I think Belvin and I are pretty set, so I do want to hear what Dan and Chessman's opinions are.
Dan, you want to go first?
I just kind of think, to be honest, I don't really think either of these is going to win
I don't either.
in the end, not to get too meta with it. But I just don't really like, I like Showbiz Kids. I think it's a cool concept. I think it's a little too out there for me in terms of what I would want to do for a revisit. I just don't really, it is evocative, but like, I don't know.
Wait,
like,
wait. Neither of these are going to win. Let's be clear about that. These-
I do think that while Ghost Class is fun, it's better than Showbiz Kids, and it deserves the win over Showbiz Kids.
I would
I
argue
do
the
think
opposite.
looking
I would
down,
argue that Showbiz Kids is a delightful little episode. It's sort of like an art pop piece in our catalog. You know, it's never going to be top of the charts, but damn it should get some recognition.
on the metric of what it would be like, what makes sense for a revisit, I'm
That's
gonna
irrelevant.
vote for Ghost Glass. Yeah, no, it absolutely is relevant.
Neither is winning. This is the moral victory.
And I'll abstain.
so that's
I like okay. I would like to see a story in Showbiz Kids. I would like to flesh out Ghost Class more. That's my 2 cents.
Oh, Melvin just disconnected from the Discord call.
he's muted himself and he's crying on screen. Now he's closed his laptop.
I'm okay.
He's he's unmuted.
Sorry, Velvet. I'm so sorry.
He was Googling, I caught a bit of his screen there. We're all streaming each other's screens, and he was Googling ad hominem attacks to use to win an argument.
You can't Google Hitman.
He was Google
It doesn't
argument
work.
tactics when I'm getting owned
On the
by
dark
my friend.
Well, no, I mean that was high praise, Jesper. You want to see like his literary work? He'd sit down and yeah.
I do. I want there to be haikus. I want there to be koans. I want there to be music.
I want there to be progress to the next part of this
Okay,
bracket.
cool. I'm just glad we recognize that Showbiz Kids is a finer piece of media.
It requires a more discerning palate than the rest of our schlock. I will say that.
Okay, time for a vote.
No, let's move on.
Ghost Class wins. Showbiz Kids, which was fought for so hard and a lot of backdoor political maneuvering, has eaten shit to honestly a mid-tier episode. A middleweight episode.
Which is the real bit here. All right, we got
this next one is crazy. We got Fraser Pilled versus Crabstar's Wrath.
Fraser Pills was sitcom, flower, and college, and Crabstar's Wrath was fly, frame, and canal. Would either Walter Belvin like to take us from the top on Fraser Pill?
I'm going to let Belvin go out of a measure of graciousness to him after what happened
you do
last
not
bout.
possess.
that I'm mimicking like a parrot would mimic speech.
After my crushing loss. Yeah, so Fraser Pilled Unfortunately, I'm not the guy to recap these things because I remember like pieces really vividly. But
Okay.
it's a world where essentially like intergalactic TV has sitcoms, but they're like, it's like how a Twitch stream you can like dip into any one story. It's like these are real planets with real people's lives, and you can like follow any character. And there are AI sitcoms their life by fucking with your brains. So
And the only way to break the AI Niles control is to smoke weed.
Oh my god.
Oh, fuck me.
God damn.
One of our truly.
As soon as I hit on the fact that AI would be called Niles, or maybe it was Belvin who said that, I don't quite remember.
I don't remember either.
But this became an all-timer for for me. Crabstars Roth, this was an in-person episode.
Yes.
Yeah.
That we recorded minus Belvin in Charleston. And it focuses on this star that's shaped like a crab called Zom, who's a wrathful god and whose kin, his chosen race that kind of lives on a planet orbiting him under the sea.
I thought the people were crabs and the star
these people
was
were
just
crabs,
a star.
crab people. The star was spiritually a crab, I would say.
Yeah, I don't
And
think
then-
it's physically a crab.
Well, the crab part of it was that after they had spurned him, a giant, like a sort of like a solar, like a constant solar flare was touching the planet that was claw shaped. They called it the claw of Zom.
Zom's claw.
Because these crabs had like started looking, they discovered like astronomy basically, and they were like looking into other worlds and like leaving their own planet. And it was a jealous god, this star, and so it ravaged the surface of their world, and they all had to retreat
forcing them
underground.
into the deep, to where they had to like live amongst, like make technology out of the bones of other crabs they'd been dumping there.
I think where we ended up was they were building a giant ice and bone spaceship.
Yeah.
And they were going to trigger a geothermal event to launch themselves into space
They
to
were
another
gonna
planet.
blow up the planet and launch their icy. They were going to freeze themselves and encompass the frozen crabs in dung and like carapace.
Yeah.
And then they were going to literally blow up the planet and fly as an asteroid, hoping to emerge somewhere else in space.
So of course, if you were going to revisit this, you would have to talk. You would probably just talk about space crabs, right? You would probably talk about space
A
crabs.
sort of Deep Space Nine, or no, Voyager. It would be more like Voyager, I guess.
Yeah.
With crabs.
And maybe Zom is still hates them, and Zom is still trying to stop them, even when they've escaped. That said,
Or maybe they don't escape and they land back on the planet, and it's like, now what?
oh,
Or they're just floating around. They're just orbiting Zom as an asteroid. Like, they don't escape his gravitational pull.
That would be something
Yeah.
we'd need to decide if we were to revisit this one.
well, yeah, because all that said, I mean, it ain't got shit on Fraser Pill.
Yeah, I gotta
I
be
mean-
honest. This was a super fun one to do, but Fraser Pilled for me was like way funnier.
Like, we can talk about crabs anytime.
That's
But-
true.
And we had we had that labyrinth crab episode, remember?
Which also didn't get past round one of the bracket, and I'm starting to think there's an anti-crab bias.
Well, the good news is that just like how in nature evolution will inevitably drive back towards the crab form, every season we will have an episode. There's like, what about crabs?
If Showbiz Kids had involved crabs in some way, it would be a stronger episode.
Fuck.
The
fairies are crabs.
Made the fairies crabs.
I am a noted crab zealot, and I will always promote crabs. However, in
And
this
if
situation,
you're not willing to buck Fraser Pilled for the crab world, then I don't think I am, frankly.
Yeah,
they're
I
both
mean-
pretty good.
I loved Crabstars Roth. I think it's very fun, but like I want to see how the college student sitcoms are going to fight back against Niles by smoking weed in the future
yes,
and introducing aliens to weed.
it writes itself.
Okay. Fraser Pill it is.
Fraser Pilled.
All right.
Coming up next, we've got You've Got Whale featuring Will Isaacson, friend of the pod, music producer, platinum artist, versus Quantum Auto Drive, Chaos on the Back Nine.
And our prompt words were driftwood, bell, postage, embassy, and bioweapon, shoes, golf. And oh man, where to start?
Well,
I can't even talk. I have to contain myself.
Okay, Chessman, contain yourself.
So you've
Belvin,
got Whale.
did you do the assignment and listen to Quantum Auto Drive?
Oh yeah, that's
I
a
don't
good
have
question.
to answer that.
You listen to neither of them. Oh man. Okay.
All right, well, let's explain them, and we'll see where Belvin ends up. We'll make him vote first.
Yeah, pitch it to me.
All right, so you've got Whale is like this is a world where like it's covered in like this dense mist, if I remember correctly, and the way to navigate it is the bones of creatures, specifically whale bones, produce these resonances that then ping off of basically like buoy lighthouses in other parts of this big ocean-bound world that you then navigate to using sound waves. And it's all controlled by this like guild of people that have control of sort of radio waves and like audio frequencies.
Yeah, this one's less of a heater, I think, than.
And there was something about like a religious organization at war with like the Commerce Guild or something.
Yeah, because this religious organization manufactured these bells that Ringo's. Listen, I don't quite remember what this one was about. Now that I'm talking about it confidently, I'm going to say I'm running out of steam pretty fast here.
They build the bells and like the radios.
The thing that I latched onto in that episode that I thought was most interesting was the idea of basically fabricating like a fake bell to if you had a third bell, you could tune into the frequencies of a pair, and you could like snoop that way.
Yeah, I remember
Yeah,
this.
so
It was a
think-
very intrigue-based setting.
Yeah, the most heat we got was with the intrigue type stuff, and like the fact that like there are these information brokers that can sort of control the tides of things. And there was like some intimation of like the dead whales and some like lost spiritual ecopaths or something.
Right. It's like it is like, why are we killing? We can't keep killing all of these whales. We're running out of whales.
Yeah, actually,
Right.
the more we talk about the setting, the more it feels like it's deeply metaphorical of what I don't know, but it
I like just saying it's evocative of something.
well, not evocative. No, it feels like all the elements of it like feel less like a real world and more like a world you would make to comment on the real world.
It really makes you feel
Like a platform for some kind of like interesting like societal critique or something. Like a Borges-esque. Yeah, it's kind of Borges-esque.
I remember liking this one.
We don't want to leave alive.
Let's compare it to Quantum Auto Drive, Chaos on the Back Nine.
Do you want to describe this one?
Yes, a setting whose title surprisingly only delivers 5% of the heavy lifting that a title like that should do. This is a setting about humans piloting mechs that play golf in space as a way to resolve disputes instead of war, because bioweapons have advanced to the point where war would mean annihilation for everyone on the planet. And there is a dark golfer who works for an organization called No Country that wants to slam one of these like sedan-sized golf balls into the earth at sub-light speed to destroy the world, because their rightful country was literally obliterated to make space for the like golf course of this game.
Yeah. Australia. We've destroyed Australia.
Destroy the equivalent of Australia.
In this setting.
God,
There are
I love
satellites
it.
that shoot different golf clubs to the different mechs in space
Where to
called
start
caddies.
with this one? This was
the
such a
Caddy
good
satellite system.
the Caddy network, yeah, and this was such a strong episode that I don't think we can really talk about it too more and give the illusion that it's like better than that it's worse than the whale episode, because it's not. It's like way better.
I mean, it's unfortunate.
I'm voting
It's
for
unfortunate
Quantum
to get
Overdrive.
paired up against Quantum Auto Drive in the first round.
It's
We knew that'd be a rough one to beat.
Yep, always have loved this episode since we recorded.
Imagine if Quantum Auto Drive got paired against Show Biscuit.
the ultimate annihilation.
Can't believe.
It's about to get annihilated, actually.
Okay, so that one's clear. One more to go, huh?
Yep, one more out of the 16-ish bracket, and that'll speed up considerably. We're talking Pyramid Scream versus Martyr Country. Dan, hit us with the prompts on Pyramid Scream.
Sitar, Scavenger, Pyramids. And then Martyr Country was Embargo, Icon, and Cowboy.
Ugh.
Whew.
Oh, yeah.
Another audio-based one.
Our
Pyramid
audio-based
Scream.
ones are never that good, frankly. We've done two. I will say for Pyramid Scream, I'm voting Martyr Country, and I like it a lot. I will say for Pyramid Scream, there were a lot of cool ideas in it. The ziggurats being a way to manipulate sound was cool. The fact that they made a mobile siege engine that's a moving ziggurat was neat. We had these like cultures who were like, they kind of countered this siege weapon because they were like super. Sound didn't have as much of an effect on them.
Oh, we're talking
Any other
like
thoughts on-
bards, like bardic magic.
Yeah.
And just like in the countrysides, like birds too. Like the bird calls having power.
There was like a people that had like a monastic like society built into the ice that they like
Yes.
just put magic through the glaciers and shit through audio. That was.
Right.
I'll put it this way: if Frank Fazetta were to draw one of our settings, this would be one of the ones I'd want him to draw.
Oh no, he would draw
yeah.
Swords of the Father, unquestioningly.
I think that this is a debate that we can have, but
Yeah,
maybe
so
each.
I think we're probably all on the same page on which one wins here, but points to Pyramid Scream for being a good stew, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Very pyramidy. Extremely pyramidy. Great notes of pyramid all throughout. Everything was a pyramid. If it wasn't a pyramid, it was a glacier.
Martyr
Yeah.
Country's just too cool. Like
It's Catholic cowboys with Pope hats. It's sick.
there's magic guns.
There's sin being manifested in the real world.
And you know what? We might want to just save that for round 2.
Yeah,
Save Martyr Country.
because we're going to be talking about it in depth.
Yeah.
yeah,
Now-
let's do that.
Let's go on to the first. All right, these are the winners of the first bracket. We got
Okay.
Swords of the Father going up against Chasing the Eschaton. We've got Obscura going up against the Salt Lines. We've got Ghost Glass going up against Fraser Pilled. And we've got Quantum Auto Drive going up against Martyr Country, which we're going to save to do last.
shit.
Yeah.
That's gonna be rough.
Okay, so Swords of the Father versus Chasing the Eschaton, right? Both very grim scenarios. Of these, well, we've already summarized them. I'll let you guys just talk a little bit.
I'm trying to remember like specific like characters and organizations we were talking about in Swords of the Father. I have a little bit of trouble
There were
remembering
none,
that.
because it was kind of the swords were the characters and humanity were their kind of playthings. Although there was this one sword, who literally like he like broke the code of honor and started just breaking other swords so they couldn't be repaired.
Yeah,
I remember-
his whole
Oh,
shtick was like he would push his wielders until they literally just died. Like
yeah, and he would take a new wielder, sometimes like multiple times in a day.
in a single battle.
And they imprisoned him beneath the ocean. Like they had him completely fucking imprisoned. I really like this one. I also really like Chasing the Eschaton, so this is a tough pick for me.
It's
yeah.
Chasing the Eschaton just feels so unique in a way that like Swords of the Father, it does feel like it's like this very sort of a kind of Conan-esque type of setting of just like super like ultra brutal mixed with like just like societies that you don't belong in, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then Chasing the Eschaton is a little bit like it's like a distillation of what a JRPG would be, what every JRPG is. To me, at least.
Dan, Belvin, your thoughts?
Oh, well, we're now at the point where we have to think more seriously about like continuation and how much is left in the tank. Now just mulling over how much is left in the tank for chasing the Eschaton. I think there's a decent bit actually.
I do think so too. Like,
Yeah.
I like Swords of the Father, but I think that what the revisit would look like would basically be just fleshing out the factions. I think with Chasing the Eschaton, we have room to flesh out phenomena also.
Right.
Like what the magical phenomena of these apocalyptic energies looks like on the world.
And we could even talk about like the origin, and we could talk about like how we got to this place to begin with, and then also talk about these very unique factions.
I will say
more Magitech, yeah.
Probably the thing that sold it most for me on Chasing the Eschaton, because that is the one I'm picking, is that I've had this thought in my head, this would be the most fun setting to draw a map of, I think, that we've ever made. Because so much crazy shit is going on. There's so many, you can make a really characterful, interesting map of this setting that's really evocative of kind of the vibe.
Yeah, you just said that. I'm imagining in my mind like the Adventure Time map, like the Land of Oo. That's like, but just like, so you poured a bunch of sludge over it, kind of.
No, I think it's cool. Honestly, this is part of why Glaive Watch is so much weaker. Is Eschaton does everything Glaive Watch does, but cooler, basically. And in more varied ways, sort of. So because it's straight up just magic, fucking crazy phenomena. So yeah, I mean, I'm voting for Eschaton.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. All right.
Yep. Same.
A pretty quick bout there, all told. Next up, we have Obscura going up against the Salt Lines, and I gotta say, these two worlds are thematically like very similar, actually.
Yeah.
Sorry about like accessing different realms, yeah.
They are. In a way, Crabstar was kind of like that too, where the crabs had like access to this gate, or that they could kind of like a telescope that they could see through, and that's really evocative of the Salt Lines as well. Of the two, I would put Salt Lines ahead of Obscura, because with Obscura we had the problem of we couldn't figure out how the cameras worked exactly. Like if you pointed them at something, did it destroy the thing? Did it not? That sets it on kind of a weaker foundation for me. Whereas the Salt Lines, we know how the portals work. In fact, you could say it in 2 sentences. Light can go through them, but nothing else can. And that's instantly, you know everything about it. You know kind of how they function in space as wormhole windows, basically. Any other thoughts on these? I'm willing to be contested.
That's an interesting point, that Obscura, the world, like the mechanics of it weren't quite nailed down successfully in the first one, but we like felt out how promising they were.
Yeah,
is
like
that
we never
a
really
better place to go in terms of continuation? Is like, okay, no, let's actually figure out how this works and then move from there.
I think we have more to flesh out in Salt Lines. I think the Salters are like almost worthy of their own entire thing. Like these beings of light are worthy of like an entire section. Like Obscura is like, it's a lot of adventuring going through these different worlds, but like I don't really know what I would want to talk about like on the home front so much. Like I'm inclined to vote for Salt Lines.
That's fair.
That's right. We never really talked about the home front that much. We talked about the thing of like maybe there was a city that had been destroyed, but like that's about as far as we got. I think we didn't really talk about in Obscura. Okay. We talked about the possibility of like that the camera technology had actually started to like destroy parts of their world. But we never really got into that world. We never bit into it. We got into this. We were
too busy exploring the smoke and the worlds beyond, and the physics being different, which is cool.
I think Obscura would be a really cool setting to be an adventurer in, and like to play like a tabletop game in. It's less interesting to me for a revisit though, because Obscura is about going out into other worlds. Like The Salt Lines is about how other worlds interact with this world.
Well,
like,
I mean, I don't actually have a strong opinion here. I'd be down for the Salt Lines.
Yeah, they're both really good episodes.
Obscura did have some other stuff going on with like other inventions.
Did it?
Yeah, I'm blanking on what they were, but I remember we like touched on the idea like it's not just cameras. Like this is sort of an age of invention. They're finding other stuff too. I think the ways in which like the world is formed is interesting in sort of a granular way, but I'm down for Salt Lines as I talk it through.
It sounded like Salt Lines wins that. Next up, we have Ghost Glass, which beheaded Showbiz Kids versus Frasier Pilled.
I mean,
I don't even think we have to talk about it, really.
It's not. We don't need to say anything.
I think it's Frasier Pilled.
It's obviously Ghost Glass. No.
I think Oleg, we really has a lot of development in him.
You killed Showbiz Kids for this?
I did.
Rips
For the biggest lightweight glass jaw in the entire
I put him in the bracket. I put that world in the bracket so it could be brutalized, and then the guy who did it could also be destroyed. Oh man, I do think, is there a world in here that Showbiz Kids could have beaten? Because I was thinking, and I was I don't know if it.
Pyramid Scream, definitely Pyramid Scream.
Yeah, I could have beaten that.
Probably
It could have
Pyramid
beaten
Scream.
That. That
maybe
being said, Frasier Pilled was a heater. It was a great episode. Moving
could be
on.
Forgotten Gods, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
Moving on, we have Quantum Auto Drive, Chaos on the Back Nine versus Martyr Country.
Don't make me do it. No, God, no.
Well, we might as well acknowledge the fact that we all know deep down that Martyr Country does have overlaps with Mendicant Gate.
Yeah, we talked about this.
Mendicant Gate already won.
Has, if we revisited it, it'd be fairly similar tonally to Mendicant Gate. There'd be some differences. But I don't want that to remove it from contention entirely.
Sure.
When we're talking about the strengths of Martyr Country, we're talking about a setting that's more the Strange West than the Old West. Mendicant Gate is more rooted, I would say, in reality.
Yeah, it's like
actually
alternate history fiction in some ways.
Right.
It's still Strange West, but it's about the intersection of devils with like real Old West America.
Right. Martyr Country is made up whole cloth. There are saint orders of monks who act as sheriffs and who have proficiency with different types of guns and like lassos and bullwhips and shit.
Well, and it's cool because you have this whole theme of like the old world versus the new world, and like the progress down this river that is sort of becomes less lawful like the further down it you get.
Right. And there's like the question of like, are the rituals and kind of is what the old world perceives as evil really evil, or is it more of like an animist or spiritualist kind of reaction to them impeding on the land?
Right, and the Minotaurs embodying that.
Right.
Yeah, one point in Martyr Country's favor is that it just works, you know?
It like works so well.
It doesn't feel like it's hard to put things together. It kind of just...
No.
It's easy, you know?
Yeah, it just works. Simple as.
That being said, Quantum Auto Drive, here's what I'm saying, right? It's conceptually similar to True Cuts, our other revisit.
Yeah. Yes.
So here's if we had to pick one, right? Oh man. Part of me, I'm sorry, continue talking. I need to think about this. This is rough.
It has, because the thing that like hurts me, and the thing that would make me like, if a Quantum Auto Drive won in this, what would hurt me is that what that setting is it is a joke that has been taken so seriously that it's not a joke anymore. But at its core, it's basically a comedy. I mean, like not to pull the veil back too far, but it is basically that one episode of Gundam that was
with
basically
Mexico?
a joke.
Well,
Yeah,
all right. Here,
Mexico.
the with the hat Gundam. Anyway, this
there
is
was
not
the hat
relevant to
Gundam.
the discussion. I almost just don't want to touch Quantum Overdrive. It's kind
Really?
of perfect to me.
I feel the same way, ironically, but about Martyr Country, actually. And I think Quantum Auto Drive we could beef up a bit more. I'm voting, I would vote that we revisit Quantum Auto Drive, I would say, of the two. And I think we just knocked so much out of the park in that setting. We knocked out the Dark Golfer. We knocked out the urgency of kind of what was happening, as well as the ridiculousness of it.
Yeah.
And it's a weirdly bright setting for one where bioweapon was used as a prop.
Right.
I don't know how else to describe it.
Yeah, well,
And there's a lot of heart too. There's a lot of most of the golfers are just connected by like a quantum link, but then you've got the one golfer who is there like in the trenches with his crew.
Yeah, on the ship.
Like on the ship.
Quantum takes it for me. That's my vote, and I can't think any more about it. I've betrayed my upbringing and heritage.
Yeah, if I'm going with my gut, it's Quantum.
Then it's down to Belvin and Dan.
So I'm a populist, and seeing as
Yeah.
Martyr Country got the most listens of the season, I vote for Martyr Country.
Okay, Martyr Country. Martyr Country
I'm
over
inclined to
Quantum.
vote for Martyr Country.
This is
and look, okay.
I knew this one would be tough.
In light of these things, I'm so on the fence. I am so on the fence. I'll swing for Murder Country. I'll do it.
Hang on.
Hang on. Literally.
What if I got
kills
Dan?
me
What
to
if I
do
got
it.
Dan to swing for Quantum Auto Drive and nothing changed? Dan, think about it.
What if you stalemated again?
It was really unfortunate to have these two go up against each other so soon. Because they are titans.
This happened on one of the other revisits too, didn't it?
We had a period in this season where we were just hit after hit. Some of the Fraser Pilled, Quantum Auto Drive, Martyr Country. I think they were like back to back. All phenomenal episodes.
Yeah. We don't really.
It's only going to get harder.
It's god damn.
Just want you to know that.
Well, if no one's switching, then Martyr Country is the winner.
Okay.
Us.
Yeah.
All right.
I love you, Quantum. You're such a good setting. You did well.
If it wasn't for the existence of True Cuts and me feeling like us revisiting True Cuts, if it wasn't
Damn it,
for
I
that,
should have said that. I do know.
but both of them are revisit. What makes me want to go to Martyr Country is it's the kind of setting, because like I did not like revisiting
Mendicant Gate.
The Mendicant Gate. I didn't like it.
Because there were cultural obligations. We had to like do a lot of research and stuff.
Well, and then even if you discard that, then if you discard that the right way, what you're doing is developing a fantasy setting, and that's what Martyr Country is to me. I think it almost feels like doing. It feels like a Mendicant Gate that I can actually like think about and interact with without knowing. Honestly, just having a really bad, goopy, anti-history brain.
Okay.
Anyways.
Whew. That wraps up an exciting round here, and we have the final four here. We have Chasing the Eschaton versus the Salt Lines, and we have Fraser Pilled versus Martyr Country.
First, be still,
first
my
up,
heart.
Chasing the Eschaton versus the Salt Lines.
Huh. Huh. For listeners who haven't listened to the previous two seasons, we're actually not allowed to talk in round 3. We can only vocalize.
I think what we have to do now is we need to get more specific about what we would revisit in each of these if it made it to the end, and what more is appealing to us.
Chasing the Eschaton, you have more natural phenomena. You have mapping the setting out more concretely. You have the exploration of these two seemingly opposed factions. You have the actual origin of Eschaton energy or APOC energy.
We've got the beast people, the communal, the mutations.
Yeah, they're one of the two factions, I think.
I thought there were like 2 or 3 warring factions, and then, like,
it was kind of a
thing.
world at war politically, and they hadn't discovered this magic, and then they did, and now the old like political framework is kind of dissolved away, and it's just like humanity versus inhumanity kind of thing.
What if the APOC energy turned out to happen because scientists captured the Doom Runner and have been experimenting on him?
Oh, God.
Okay.
Trying to find this
crossover episode.
I tried this ploy
If
in
that,
season 1 and it did not work. However,
if it
this is a
doesn't
very
win,
strong move.
we should do that. But
Going now to its competitor, the Salt Lines. What do we want to revisit in Salt Lines?
I think the Salters are a big thing. I think that the light aliens and how they interact with the world, like in more detail, would be a big thing.
There's kind of that invisible alien threat that comes through the portals and is like psychic and
Right,
can
the
attack
negative
us.
oriented spirits and the positive oriented spirits both.
Right. There's kind of the physical aliens who are like, even though they're very far away, they're like machinating to like seize control of the world and develop faster than light travel, so they can like get what's obviously a very strategic, literally a telescope to all parts of the galaxy.
Well, and didn't we talk about like there were literally aliens like basically in orbit that could not actually get down to the planet
Yeah,
because it
they
was
can't
protected?
pass through the lens. Yeah. Yes, we did talk about that.
We established that like the salt rains down in different regions, like different rains rain in different regions. So there's like up to 10 different like either factions or areas.
All right, I'm going to shoot from the hip, I think, and vote for Salt.
Okay.
Interesting. My gut is telling me Eschaton.
I also agree with Eschaton here. Chessman, you can
Me
either
too.
tie it up.
It's the annoying thing to me is that I love the concepts in Salt Lines and I love to explore them. It's just like this mechanical fault with being able to interact with the setting of like we've set up these like gates that you can't pass through. That like it almost feels like it's a lot of stuff that we need to flesh out that we don't have the ability, like only information can travel through it, right? So like
Yeah.
I feel like there's a mechanical fault in the setting possibly.
Well, I kind of felt like essence travels through too.
And I think we implied also that aliens were like trying to develop energy weapons so they could blast the planet through and like get us to like surrender to them, basically. So there were threats to humanity there.
Right.
Yeah, and I think we established that maybe ascension was possible, like as a species, and
This would be one that on a revisit there would need to be some advancement as well as just fleshing out. Which I'm fine with either of these winning. I like both of these a lot.
Where I just Eschaton just captures my imagination.
I really like it.
What we have set up, I just want more of it. I want to know more about exactly what we have set up right now at the way we have it set up. So I think it's perfect.
Damn.
All right.
We got.
Unfortunately.
All right. For the second bracket here, and this is right before the final bracket, we have Martyr Country versus Fraserfield. I like Frasier, but the buck stops here. This is where the Frasier. This is as far as the Frasier dollar carries for me, and it carries it pretty far.
Come on,
Here's
Frasier.
The thing is, y'all have watched a lot more, but Walt and Velvet have both watched way more television in that vein than me, and so it doesn't do as much for me as it does for y'all. I don't have the the tools to interact with this one as much.
It's important that you understand that Frasier is like it's not just comedy. It's like an Italian comedic opera. Like the best episodes of Frasier are like there's like the best episodes of Frasier are like there's a tableau of like 5 or 6 doors and people going out of them and into them simultaneously on different assumptions and preconceptions.
Yeah, and then in the third act, it just hits like the biggest possible punchline.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's a great ass show. That being said, we can't channel that show in a revisit. We don't have the like talent to do that comedically.
No, and also we're not really headed that way with a revisit. Because I mean, I don't know about you, but I don't think smoking weed really has anything to do with Frasier.
I would disagree. I would say the only way you can understand Frasier is if you're on weed.
Have you not seen Niles smoke weed? Have you not seen the episode of Frasier?
I do think the premier strengths of Frasier Pilled are smoking weed and the fact that the AI's name is Niles.
Well, which, to be fair, both very strong.
Yeah.
Both very strong.
Well, and I mean, I've always liked the idea of like TVizing people's lives. Like, I think it's a fun idea.
Well, it's a lot like Better Showbiz Kids, actually.
I think they're highly different.
I don't think they're the same either.
Now I'm offended.
They both involve like performing, I guess, sort of, but one is by choice and one isn't.
Yeah, I mean, I think Frasier Pilled has fun concepts. Is not like it's both a joke setting and not a joke setting, right?
Yeah.
But I guess in some ways, if we're being honest, here it is.
Yeah, if I have to compare like the dark beauty of like Martyr Country and like the thematic depth of that setting to the AI's name is Niles and you smoke weed.
Well, it's not just that. Also, it gives people brain damage, so they act more like Homer Simpson.
Yeah, there's a lot of slaves to alien overlords.
Yeah.
A lot of slaves to alien overlords in these episodes that actually made it in this season.
It's very dark, but it's a dark comedy. It's like a Futurama episode, really. That's what Frasier Pilled is.
You're completely right. Frasier Pilled is a Futurama episode.
And we love it
Somehow.
But I think Martyr Country wins.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to vote for Frasier Pilled.
Unfortunately.
I know it's no
Just
disrespect,
because I
buddy.
can.
You're allowed to do that.
Yeah.
In fact, your constituents will be glad that you did.
Yeah, you're taking the Frasier Pilled vote back home.
This one's from my district.
We've got the final choice here between Chasing the Eschaton and Martyr Country.
Oh, I know what my heart says.
This is rough for me. These are two incredible settings that we made. Martyr Country beat Quantum Auto Drive, which is evidence of its profound strength in the fact that we all really, really like it. Chasing the Eschaton didn't go up against as many, I would say, heaters in its bracket as Martyr Country did and came out alive. But that being said, Chasing the Eschaton is a profoundly good world that we made.
Of the two, like when I look at what I think each deserves fleshing out more, it's Eschaton for me. Like there's a lot we can write into Martyr Country and a lot of really cool stuff, but I think it stands on its own 2 legs in a way that Eschaton doesn't, and that makes me want to go back to Eschaton more.
Okay.
Because I feel like there's a lot of physical description we can add into that world.
Well, I feel like Eschaton, like in expanding it, you can zig and zag more too, because there is like a high weirdness to the setting.
Mm-hmm.
And Martyr Country is like very satisfying, stick to your rib stuff.
Oh yeah,
but I don't think it's going to like surprise me in the way that Eschaton could.
Yeah.
Go on, Chessman.
Well, so in these last moments that we have with these settings,
before we
like
kill all the ones that didn't make it,
we jettison
take them out behind
space.
the shed.
Yeah.
with these, no, I'm talking about with these last 2 settings. All the other ones are dead. We've already the blood is leaking into the straw, as it were.
We didn't kill Quantum Auto Drive; it escaped. It escaped captivity.
Yeah.
I'll be back.
We saw its parachute. I do want to get an entire anime opening commissioned of Quantum Auto Drive one day. Just like I want to get an entire anime opening commissioned of True Cuts.
Yeah.
But like what do y'all want to see? Like, what is the most exciting thing that you want to see from both of these? Is what I want to hear. Right
Okay, so if I'm looking at Eschaton, we're fleshing out the factions. Factions I'm thinking of right now. The Magitech faction, the Beast faction, and then a third faction to mix things up, the Heir itself, which is conniving to destroy humanity so that it does not get destroyed in the apocalypse.
Oh shit!
That's just a curveball right there for
Oh,
Eschaton.
like an Earth intelligence that's forming.
Well, like literally, we talked about how the Heir in Eschaton in certain parts of the world is sentient due to how much fucking chaos magic is saturated.
Yeah.
And they would have the ability to think critically about what's happening to maybe even analyze the situation.
That's cool. It's like a World Soul type thing, except the World Soul isn't like a nature spear from a Ghibli film. It's like mutated Earth stuff.
Yeah, that's
And
like an
when I look at
antagonistic
Martyr
spirit.
Country, I'm looking at the breadth of the miracles that we can establish. I'm looking into it's. I don't know. I do want to revisit Eschaton more of these two because you're right.
Can't even. Like,
No, because what it is for me, what really soured it for me, was when
it killed
somebody
Quantum
said
Auto Drive.
No, when somebody said that Martyr Country was so thematically similar to Mendicant Gate, which we had just revisited. I think Martyr Country is a stronger world than Mendicant Gate. I like it more. We don't compare worlds really between seasons, but if I had to, I think this would beat out Mendicant Gate for me. That being said, I think that it's thematically too close to home for what we've already done. And I think Chasing the Eschaton is just, there's so much more volatility in that setting than there is in the Old West.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's not even that it'd be a repeat. Like, that aside, I feel like Eschaton is just a more alive setting in my mind.
Yeah, which is funny because it's probably, this is like one of the most dismal settings we've ever made.
It's a way less like lived in, like in terms of like what living in it looks like described than the other ones, but it's got so much more interesting phenomena. Like,
yeah, and it's like
just because it can be anything.
There's so much like conflict going on. It's like very animated in that way. Like there's lots of kinetic energy to this thing. Yeah, actually, the more we talk about it, the more it's
we're just. I think we're just talking ourselves into it, and it is a shame because truthfully, Martyr Country is such a good episode.
It's a sick episode.
Such a good world.
I feel like I am drawn more to Mendicant Gate as far as like the world goes. But maybe that's just like a thematic thing. Like you connect strongly to the religious themes of Martyr Country.
Yeah.
Because your upbringing, like Mendicant Gate, to like the historical, like rising tide of violence really fascinates me. But
yeah, I don't think it's as clear cut either. But I mean, Mendicant Gate appeals to a lot of stuff that I like. Just in terms of like that old history and that like amplification of all of the trends that are going in that direction, being the war,
and Mormons being the paladins. That's just
that was sick. I remember that was a pretty good decision we made unilaterally. The Mormons were good.
Yeah, they're good guys.
Yeah,
just like real
fantasy setting.
No, just like real life.
Oh man,
I'm just remembering. Well, I think this is funny, and this is a lot of the strengths Mendicant Gate has as a setting were fleshed out in the revisit. And if we were comparing episode 1 to episode 1, Martyr Country in my mind would win. But the more we talk about Mendicant Gate, because we revisited it, and because we talked about like how Brigham Young had like arrived there and set up like the lion's seat out of like Salt Lake City, it was like making his own like Mormon army and shit.
John Brown making a deal with the devil.
All right. This is season 3. This is season 3, and this is actually a wrap on season 3.
Yeah, well, let's give a round of applause to Chasing the Eschaton.
Oh man,
we're deeply sorry to probably almost everyone.
We do take a lot of people said Martyr Country was the one to revisit, and a lot of people liked Martyr Country.
Well, and it's not just Martyr Country that lost in this, it's the other 15 episodes, of which I know if I'm in my heart of hearts, like which one that I liked the most as a product that we did, a thing that we did. It was Quantum Auto
I know,
Drive.
dog. I know.
Yeah, no,
That
it's
I
the
want
same
to
for me.
revisit, though. It is so heartbreaking, but I know this is the truth.
Look, if for
Yes.
some reason you're listening to us and you picked this episode to listen to, go back and listen to Quantum Motor Drive.
Why are you
still
saying that?
listening?
No one is
Yeah.
listening. No one listens
Yeah,
to
go
all
back
of this.
and listen to
I
Motor
don't know what these
Country.
podcasts are talking about.
Because we're professionals. We're professional. No, but it's entirely possible that somebody didn't listen to every episode that's listened to some of ours
Yeah,
has
like
gotten to
one
this
of the
point.
hosts
I
of this
thought you were
podcast was supposed to,
I thought you were right.
so we could run a
No,
tournament.
you fucking idiot.
Yeah. Oh, what's that clapping sound? What is that?
Yeah, well, I do invite our listeners who are disappointed that Martyr Country didn't make it to revisit to form your own fucking podcast and revisit Martyr Country there.
That is a great point. If you hogs can shuffle off and figure out how RSS servers work, and then you could be doing this with your friends. But until then, that's our show. If you like this episode, you can subscribe to us on your podcasting service of choice to get new episodes every other Saturday. If you want, go ahead, write us a review on iTunes. Share us with anyone who likes world building. It really helps us out. Our art is courtesy of the talented and wonderful Shell Torah, Jovial Paradox on Twitter. You can tweet at us too at LoreLads or send us spirited hate mail at 30minuteworlds@gmail.com. Thanks for listening, and as always, happy world building. See you next season.